It began under open skies. A raw, rhythmic dance of combat where warriors shaped by sun and soil wrapped their fist in cloth and courage. Born on the plains of West Africa, more than a fight, a ritual, a test of spirit where the strong side strikes and the shield side survives. Fire travels and the world caught a glimpse. From pixel to pulse, the ancient art surged through screens, viral fists flashing in digital arenas. What once lived in village dust now roared across the globe. And today, Dambe is reborn. Ancient hands now strike on the world stage. Fury shrouded in history, poetry bound in power. The ancient African fighting art, wrapped in tradition, reborn in the roar of a new world.
What's up, my friends? My name is Robin Black. Welcome to my home studio. I'm a lifelong martial artist and a lover of all things combat. In particular, I love the little details of combat sports history and all of the exotic flavors and textures and colors of martial arts all around the world. Much like food or music, martial arts is informed by the culture in which it grows. It is my distinct privilege today to talk to you and share with you about the art of Dambe. Dambe is a fighting art from Africa, in particular Nigeria, practiced originally by the Hausa people of northern Nigeria. And this is a beautiful and wonderful combat sport. Its history is incredible. We can trace it back hundreds of years. First, literally as a military training style. Later, of course, as a competition practiced by young men. And today, we take it from, fighting art through a viral sensation. If you've been exposed to Dambe, it is on the internet. It is highly compelling and very, very viral, very shareable, very impactful, very memorable. And today, Dambe in Africa is expanding to a global combat sport. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But a little bit about Dambe that you'll notice as if you're new to it, or even if you already appreciate this beautiful art form. The first thing you may notice is the wrapped fist, wrapped in cloth, a weapon wrapped in cloth with knotted rope around it. This is known as the spear in Dambe. It is the strong hand, the strong side, weaponized as a spear. And then the front hand, this is thought of as the shield, considered the shield. And used often, there's many different ways to use it. And we're going to get into some of the beautiful details of Dambe in just a second. But you will notice the shield, often used as a distraction, as a measuring system, as an offensive sort of tool to open up alleys and pathways for your weapon. Also there to protect, and of course the weapon being the primary weapon of Dambe, the spear, the strong side. You know what? Why don't we get into it a little bit? Why don't we take a look at a little bit of footage? I'm going to bring in Maxwell Kalu, who is the founder and CEO of African Warriors Fighting Championship. He's going to join me from Nigeria in just a little bit and tell you about the growth of Dambe, and it's fascinating and fast. It's exciting. But first, why don't we get into a little bit about the beauty of the martial art form itself? There's nothing on earth like Dambe. The combination of history, elegance, vulgarity, and the distinct nature of the art form itself. These are shields. Open hand, used to defend, used to engage, used to distract. A lot of tools. And this is the spear, wrapped in fabric and knotted rope. That is a ferocious weapon. They're both engaging here. Watch Yasanda. He lands, but watch this. As he touches the shoulder, he knows he's in range. He's going to reach back and engage the shield here. Now his man will flinch because he expects it, but it's an off rhythm, like a off-speed pitch, pulls it down and fires it over the top. Pink. Elegant and vulgar. This is Dambe. A lot of different aspects of the fighting art of Dambe. Of course, we know the shield, we know the spear. That is just level one of the understanding. A lot of what this is about is rhythm and timing, distraction, and we're going to take a look at that right here. So look at these two men. One man here is in a defensive posture trying to counter, and the other man, Karana Bink, right there. That is about first step, but it's also about distraction. Let's take a look at this in detail. This man calls himself coronavirus, and he will catch you. Watch, he's going to reach in here and use his shield to try to distract and to gauge the response of his opponent. Now watch, he does it again, but watch the rear foot. Little stutter step right there. Penetrates deeper into range, pulls down the shield, and unleashes Bink, the spear. Love it. And then expresses himself freely right here. The art of Dambe, that weapon, you think of it as a spear, that is what you call it, but it is so useful and it can be used in many different ways. Watch Yasanda right here. Watch the way he's going to use this. He's engaging here. Now here they're both trying to engage the front hand. There, Bink. Now if you didn't see it, let's slow it down just a little bit. He's flashing the weapon, they're engaging, trying to come over and under. What you're going to see right here, he's going to tap down on the shield to open the pathway to fire his spear. Off time, his man moves, so he back fists. Bink, right there, uses the weapon as a back fist. Dambe is so sophisticated. It is so much more complex and beautiful than people realize. Bink impales him. On first instinct, this feels like a fighting art in which it would really benefit you to go first. But sometimes the man is waiting to impale you on his spear while you rush in. That's what we see right here. Watch Dogon here versus Tonko. One man is trying to find the right time, and you see Dogon almost impales him on it there, shakes it out, and Bink runs him on it. One more look at it. You'll see the dynamic. Tonko is bouncing, waiting, trying to get the off rhythm time. Right here, he's got him, and Dogon will try to impale him. Boop. But he catches shoulder. But this time it's right about timing. As his man is coming in, he will set his pike in the earth, metaphorically speaking, and impale him on the spear. Bink just comes around the shield. Such a beautiful art form. Bink. Oh, love it. With Dambe, like with most fighting styles, it isn't just about the what. It's about the why and the how, and in this case, the when. Take a look at this. Musa Ambola versus Dan Bunsa. Bink. On the exit, it is the when. It is when the space is being created. The two are fighting here. Watch. Dan has the shield forward, but Musa has the spear forward, and he gets impaled on both the elbow and the strike underneath. An incredibly painful place to take a shot, but he's got his spear hand forward, and right here, watch. This little dynamic. In. He lands incorrectly because of the gap and because of the reset right here. Musa needs to reset his foot and strike. Bink. Full body strike on the exit. There is a lot of complexity to this game of Dambe, and it is equal parts elegance and vulgarity. There is nothing like Dambe, baby. Historic African art form, Bink. Double kill. Yes, we call knockouts kill as a nod to history. They're both trying to engage using their shield. They're both trying to set up the primary weapon, the strong side, the spear. And it is right here. Touch and throw, slip back, and it is on the off time, the off rhythm, as his man leans in, and they both fire at exactly the same time. Bink, bink. Double kill. Let's see that one more time. Bink, bink. The art of Dambe, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I hope I've given you just a tiny, tiny taste of this beautifully violent, historic art form from Africa. But I want to talk about African Warriors Fighting Championship. This is, as some people call it, the UFC of Africa. My friend Maxwell Kalu has been working obsessively to develop this from a historical fighting art. He made it a viral sensation. A lot of people have been exposed to this on the internet, and now he's going to update us on how this is becoming a global combat sport. He's got some announcements to make, and we're going to dig into it. This is my friend, founder and CEO of African Warriors Fighting Championship, Maxwell Kalu. How are you, brother?
I'm great. Always good to be here. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm excited about I'm excited about your news, and I'm excited to share it with people. Before we get into some of that stuff, now, you and I have been friends 7, 8 years now, since I believe near the beginning of your sort of adventure into taking this historic art form and kind of sharing it with the world. How and when did you become obsessed with Dambe?
It's funny, right? So I've always been a big combat sports fan. So grew up kickboxing, karate. So it was very much of, in it to start with. And it's funny. I always say like I'm a fan more than anything else. Before founder, before CEO, I'm just a fan of fighting. And with Dambe, it was actually, we chanced upon it, if I'm honest, right? So initially we were going to start an MMA organization based out of Nigeria. And so, thinking about the success of all of these great champions coming out of the continent, we've got the talent. I was like, it's time for us to have a Nigerian-based organization. At the time, I was based in the UK. So I come back to Nigeria and I'm just going up and down, trying to understand the lay of the land in terms of, the talent, what's on ground really. And it's an Uber guy that actually started everything. Because the guy who was taking me around said to me, he goes, you seem to like this fighting stuff. I'm going to show you something. I said, okay, so he took me to it's a part of Lagos that you probably shouldn't be caught at after dark. And it's literally like it's under a bridge, right? So like a real sort of rugged, rough setting. And it was a Dambe fight. So like the musicians are going off with the drums, the fighters are displaying, sort of doing all of the things of Dambe. And I just saw it and I was like, this is it. Like it was literally that light bulb moment that as much as I'm a huge fan of MMA, be it the UFC or any other organization, but something just hooked me quickly when I saw Dambe, and that was like, this is the chance to do something radically different. There's this sport that has such deep roots across Nigeria, has culture, has tradition, has these fighters who are just going for it, right? And I was like, that's it. And I remember the icing on the cake, they were singing, Dambe there's always music accompanying it. And I said to the guy, I said, what is he singing? He said, they're singing, the time for killing has come. Don't worry if you die, we'll take you home to your village and bury you. I was like, yeah, this is it, man. Like, so that was the starting point that took me down the sort of rabbit hole that became African Warriors in terms of just getting to grips with Dambe and thinking, I want this sport to be on a global stage. I want it to be seen everywhere.
Yeah, and we're on a path to do that, right? Which is amazing. That's the beauty of having a dream is it is possible if you sacrifice and you obsess and you live it and breathe it, it's possible. And this, we're getting there. And I want to talk to you about that expansion. But first, now I'm a connoisseur of martial arts. I'm obsessed with martial arts. I love all of the different textures and flavors and colors. Regionally, people know that food has regional flavors and types and seasonings, and people know dance and music is colored and informed by region, but I don't think the average person realizes that fighting is.
Yeah.
Give us the really, and we're going to dig into this over the next months and years together, but give us some of the root of the history of Dambe.
Yeah, and so Dambe is inseparable from the deep traditions that surround it. So in terms of the history of it, goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years. We're yet to find the exact date, but we just know that the culture goes back a long time. And it originally started, it came from spear and shield warfare. So this was how warriors from northern Nigeria in particular would prepare for warfare. So they would mimic the moves they would use on the battlefield through Dambe. So, and that's where we get the terms that we use today. So the punching hand, which is wrapped up exactly, is the spear. The unwrapped hand, which is used for defensive purposes, is the shield. A knockdown, a knockout, sort of speaking to the battlefield origins of the sport, is a kill. So that sport started just as sort of these warriors were preparing for battle, keeping themselves sharp. And then eventually, over the years, it now became a pastime. It became a way that young men would prove themselves, a rite of passage, if you will. They would travel around, and it was particularly known amongst or used amongst the butcher class. So there was a group, especially of butchers, who would travel around different villages, and they would usually compete in Dambe against the local population. So they would compete, they'd win prizes, they'd win money, and they'd just, just become notorious names and champions representing their villages, cities. And it just continued like that for years and years, where this sport just became so ingrained in the culture of Nigeria, especially northern Nigeria, because everybody just understood and it represented them. And one part of Dambe which you can't escape is the house system. So depending on where you're born in Nigeria, you're born into one of three houses. So in Dambe, matches are made across house lines. So two fighters from the same house would never fight each other. If you like, bring $10 million, they will not do it. They refuse to do it. It's a taboo, if you will. So the three Dambe houses are Kudu, aka Kudawa, Arawa, and Gurumada. And they're split across northwest, north central, and northeast Nigeria. So depending where you're born into one of those three houses. So that the culture it goes so deep because how fighters become fighters. Before they're a fighter, they're an apprentice. So you literally start as a young boy and you're just running errands for the senior fighters. You're just soaking it all up. You're observing, you're understanding. And then eventually they go, okay, fine, he's old enough now. You start fighting. And then you go
like knights and squires.
Exactly.
People make the comparison to knights and squires.
Literally, yeah, knights and squires. So you just have, so that's what it means. So that's when you have a Dambe fighter who's 25, who's had over 500 fights, because he's been a part of his house. He's been representing his house first as a squire, if you will, since he was like 10 years old, and then he started fighting going through the years. So you have this culture of the house system, which is very important. And then you have spiritual aspects also. So fighters sort of put so much emphasis on the sort of spiritual protections and the belief system around the sport. So the way Thailand has, the white crew before they fight, they dance, sort of salute their god, salute their coaches. There are similar things in Dambe. So you'll notice Dambe fighters might have armbands, they might have necklaces, and these are all sort of totems, if you will, that for them provide extra protection or provide sort of extra power. So one thing, if you look really closely on the Dambe fighter's punching arm, they usually have loads of incisions. And these little cuts are made, and then little potions and different things are put inside them, and they say that makes them a more powerful puncher. So there's so much culture around it. I mean, the craziest story I've heard is there's a particular fighter who sleeps in a graveyard before he fights. Every night before he fights, he will sleep in a graveyard.
I love
He'll take some sand from the graveyard and put it on his punching hands. And you can imagine what he's trying to do with that. So,
death sand.
Yeah, literally.
This was a military or a real fighting technical style of training that became a viral thing, a viral sensation. People were exposed to it and were like, what is that? There's billions of views of Dambe. Now trying to take it to the world. What is the expansion? You have an announcement to make today about where people are going to see it and what some of the next steps are.
Yeah, so we have a big announcement. I'm really excited to make it. So African Warriors Fighting Championship has signed a broadcast partnership with DAZN. So this is a really big deal, really sort of exciting step in the global evolution of Dambe. And the deal covers what we're calling the Dambe World Series. So for us, internationalizing Dambe has always been central. That's always been what we're excited about. And we're going to be doing that by featuring the best fighters from Nigeria, the best Dambe warriors. And you've seen them across our platforms already. And we're bringing in fighters from around the world coming to compete against Nigeria's best. So for us, it just marks this moment where we've got a global audience, as you said, sort of continually going viral across the internet. And we're now going to be bringing in global fighters. And for me, it's really important that we're going to be representing the sport of Dambe and just taking it up a level. The production, the content, the quality of what you're watching is all going to go up. And plugging into DAZN's audience of over 300 million people around the world. This is just marks a really exciting step for Africa, for Dambe, and for African warriors.
It's exciting, man. It's exciting, you know, like I mentioned to meet you at the beginning where you had this passion and this vision to now announcing a global broadcast deal. It's a really awesome thing. It's awesome for the sport of Dambe and wonderful for this historic art form. But I'm happy for you too, my friend. It's an exciting thing to be a part of.
No, and I really must, I should thank you, Robin. I really do thank you. Of course, not everybody is privy to the conversations we've had over the years, but you're one of the best minds in martial arts, and I've appreciated, your feedback, your point of view, your help over the years. So I really do appreciate all of your support.
Thank you, my friend. Maxwell Kalu, founder and CEO of African Warriors Fighting Championship, now broadcast worldwide on DAZN. We're going to get together again in a few short weeks and share it on all our platforms, and we'll dig into what people can expect. We'll announce the first date, and we'll dig into what people can expect to see, you know, as this historic art form is brought into the future.
Please follow African Warriors Fighting Championship and Robin Black on YouTube right now. And follow African Warriors Fighting Championship and Robin Black Martial Arts across all social platforms. Thank you, and enjoy the hostilities, my friends.